This is going to be the future of where the internet and gaming might evolve to.
This is James Ho. He joined Animoca Group in 2018 and is currently head of Animoca Ventures, where he focuses on finding and funding cutting-edge Web3 projects.
This is a rental model. You're renting the asset.
With a solid track record of over 100 deals focusing on Web3, his most notable investments include the Sandbox, Year Games, Opensea, Magic Eden and ImmutableX. I'm more than excited to sit across the table today with James to talk about what we can expect of the future and, more importantly, the Animoca ecosystem.
Animoca, we're not trend spotters. We're really setting the trends.
Thank you so much for being on today, James. You're currently heading the venture arm of Animoca Brands. How does Animoca Ventures fit within the greater Animoca ecosystem?
So, Animoca Ventures, if we had to sort of give a definition on it, is we really believe it's the pulse of Animoca Group. So we're the early sort of innovators and investing in the early ideas and the crazier ideas. And what we do quite differently than a traditional VC is we pay a lot of attention to how it aligns with our ecosystem and how we can support it in the integration into our ecosystem. With 380 companies in the group, we also have to stay on top of who's accelerating and whose ideas are being built and showing traction.
Animoca recognized the importance and disruptive potential of NFTs before many others in the gaming industry and doubled down on that vision. By now, the ecosystem has already grown to over 380 brands and Animoca is valued at nearly 6 billion. What factors determine whether a company fits into that ecosystem?
So it's growing quite fast. How do we determine how a company fits into Animoca ecosystem? Two-prong here answer. Animoca Ventures has a very clear mandate as a metaverse fund, which I head up at the moment. Animoca Ventures focuses on content and infrastructure. So content we still believe, is the key driver of these opportunities. You may have traditional brands like the Disneys that are coming into the space a bit more carefully, but we are also seeing some really amazing Web3 native brands like Bored Ape Yacht Club, building Web3 native and really activating the community to back it, which is something that Animoca Group had the opportunity to invest in and drive that sort of strategy and execution. From an Animoca Group level, I think we're seeing a lot more investments into new companies and models that we believe have strong opportunities to become decentralized and really democratize the opportunity to earn together. One of which we touch upon is the learn to earn. That's something that we're very excited about in our investment and acquisition into TinyTap. But on top of that, we're also investing into game studios globally. Game studios allow us the ability to sort of handle the narrative and how we build and integrate digital ownership into game design. It could be the craziest idea in the world, but if it works in the next 5 years, if it impacts 100 of my companies, 20 or 100 of the companies, this is something that we're willing to sort of invest in, to build, nurture, and collaborate on.
Animoca recently acquired TinyTap, an education platform. How does Animoca see the future of education evolve, and do you expect NFTs to play an important role in that development?
So this platform, the TinyTap team, we've actually invested in them quite early, based out of Israel. What they've done is actually created a code-free base and created an interactive sort of learning mechanism platform. This has proven to be very successful for children to learn. Because you have pictures and games and different opportunity to learn through interaction. What we felt is that this opportunity, to date now, they've onboarded over 100,000 teachers. We felt that this is a great opportunity to not only use the power of blockchain and NFTs to harness the opportunity to reward the teachers. Traditionally, teachers are in the industry really not to drive, huge sort of salaries, but really to help communicate to the audience that's teaching. And we know that if we were able to create this sort of opportunity and positive feedback loop, we're going to see greater content for the greater masses and spread globally.
Okay, let's move on to property rights. Obviously, they do have utility in the physical world, whether it's owning a house or clothes to express myself and so on. But digital property rights, they are definitely harder to grasp. So what makes digital property rights valuable and why is this important?
I think if you look at the history, and one of the most famous quotes from George Washington, freedom and property rights are inseparable. Once we see these opportunities in countries, even like Seoul, when they started allowing for ownership of property, you saw a massive sort of growth on innovation and ideation on creation. So we feel digital freedom works the same way. We're currently entering a space where this is the first time in the history of the internet we're seeing the ability to own a digital domain creation. This not only allows to facilitate a fair distribution of ownership, it allows us to not be beholden to the platforms, the closed platforms, like the Googles, like the Apples. They were necessary in terms of the evolution on the internet. But is it fair to say that we pay 30% tax as we create some of the best opportunity, right? And as you know, the ad model to its best form, not perfect, but we're seeing that the free-to-play sector really grow between 2 to 3% in-game ad purchase, because that's actually the tax. So people are really struggling. And as this sort of becomes the sort of common thread into the struggle, we're not seeing indie creators being able to go into a platform like Apple.
No.
Yeah, speaking about new innovations, we are still early and consumer adoption definitely will take some years. But what are some of the sectors or problems Animoca is focusing on right now, which in your view will be pivotal to accelerate adoption?
So gaming is something that we're very naturally fit into because of our first chapter in free-to-play. 2018, when I first started the sector, the games were horrible. You couldn't even get to call them really games. But as we progress and enter into 2023, the top tier game studios have now recognized the economic model of developing on Web3. We're going to see an acceleration of innovation. We're going to see an onboarding of new masses and new game. Ultimately, you need great games. But if you were to solve the current sort of friction, we need to solve security and insurance.
The badge says to serve and protect.
Right? In a decentralized manner and how we play, I do not believe there's going to be a fully decentralized game in the near future. It's going to be a hybrid model between centralized and decentralized. But the ownership model is going to be key. One thing that Animoca is trying to solve right now is a custodial wallet. And why this is important is not because the people that are holding the Bored Apes or the Sandbox are important, but they're not the mass scale of people. It's the kids or people that play the games that are holding $100, $200 of assets and weapons and whatnot that we need to protect. And once we're able to remove that friction in our games, we're going to see better and better games with the trust that they're accustomed to in Web 2, but also protecting the value of their assets. So that's one that we remove. The second opportunity that we're very excited about is we made an investment into a company that is doing an omni-chain solution called Layer 0. So Layer 0 is looking to sort of harness their technical capabilities to remove all the complexities on the different sort of layer ones and really structure an opportunity where their omni-chain solution can actually resolve that. Why we think this is important is because this may be the future on the new game design canvas, where you start from day one designing in a multi-chain nature.
Okay, let's move on to the current market sentiment. The bear market is the time to build. But of course, the market conditions are currently not as well as we wish they would be. Do you think the speed of development will decrease due to the current market conditions?
So my personal take on it is, based on the venture fund of it, we're going to see an acceleration. So if you follow the venture fund space, predominantly this year's 2022 investment into gaming fall almost 90% into GameFi projects, right? So there's a lot of funding, even though the market is falling into a deep potential bear market. A lot of people made a lot of money during the bull market, which they're sitting on right now and looking at active deployment for great projects. So I think what has changed definitely from 2020-21 is investors have recognized that gaming and finance, what we know as GameFi, is going to be instrumental in shaping the next evolution of gaming. So a lot of the funding is going towards that. And as more and more tier 1 AAA studios coming into the space, the funding is there to back these ideas. So one, there's no shortage of funding. The funding is definitely having more iron grip on how they're deploying, including ourselves. But we do see that in the next couple of years, we think the builders and some of the top Web3 IP, including Bored Ape and our recent sort of investment into Cool Cats, are going to be building and working alongside with our different collaborators and different studios to add to the experiences and the utility to what they have underpinning their NFTs.
The metaverse has been the buzzword of the past year, yet defining the metaverse remains quite challenging. How would you define the metaverse, and how do you expect this vision to evolve beyond the hype?
So to us, the metaverse is the next evolution of the interaction of computers where physical and digital worlds collide and connect. We believe that the metaverse can only live up to hype and underpinned by digital ownership, property rights, as I mentioned previously. Very different when you see the universe on Fortnite Minecraft, etc. Those are all closed environments. What happens when we have the ability to open these conversations? So with true digital ownership and property rights, the metaverse will create a whole new set of new economic and business models. If you think of Ready Player One as a movie, we look at it from a lot of the immersive animations. But at the heart of it is how do you create the economic value?
Animoca is often on the leading edge of emerging trends. What are some trends or narratives which you expect to gain traction in the coming years?
Two things that we're really starting to see potentially accelerate in the next 2 to 4 years is something what we call open finance and future of work. Open finance, I'll touch upon that. We have some early investments with our collaborator from Matrixport, is that if we do actually believe in the future where there's going to be interconnected metaverses, we're not sort of beholden by how small and how it's going to be very large interconnected. Hence, Animoca didn't invest in just Sandbox. We have over 30 metaverse investments to date. Not all of them will be sort of be surviving through this tough times and growing, but of the 15 or so that are growing in this space, we do believe that we have the ability to connect them and talk to one another. This, in essence, is mimicking how the real world and the physical and digital world may interact. And with these open standards come open, new innovations and open finance. We've been asked to by some of the banks, how do we see the future of moving assets, lending and loaning, right? And with underpinning of NFTs, NFTs we believe will be the future on social, on lending protocol, because it could track your holdings, it could track your assets and how you trade, and study how your patterns, and then you can get an automatic loan on the metaverse, right? That's one. Two is we've already seen early sort of touch points on the future of work. Our good friend from Gabby Dizon from Guild Games launched Axie Infinity with the guild model in the Philippines. And this was a very, a wholesome sort of good feel for us during the COVID. People in the Philippines in the tier 2, tier 3 cities was able to put $50 a week on the table through playing a game. A lot of people might actually consider this class of unbanked because they don't hold a lot of money. Starting to learn about the economics and the financial needs on staking, yield farming through a game, right? And the power to that can be exponential. And having the ability to not be dependent on the location, geolocation for work, opens up to the future of work and how we earn. And we think those are very exciting sort of subjects that, we could talk hours about it in terms of how we're designing it and how people are contributing to it. But we're at the early days of open finance and the future of work. And we think that this is going to democratize and create equality for how we earn in the future.
As you mentioned, children education and gaming. If you think about it, it all comes together with NFTs. Like the vivid characters aren't so different from most of the characters you see in TV series for children already. What's your hot take on this?
To your point here, this is where it came up during yesterday's sort of brainstorming session, right? Like we invested in Cool Cats, right? And we're true believers in this whole new model of ownership of your IP rights. We feel like that, with the Bored Ape sort of investment, we're flipping the switch on ownership. It's almost the modern day Disney. We think it has the opportunity to become a very, very large opportunity. But now with our acquisition into TinyTap, why can't you use your NFT from Cool Cats to create the exact content you want to teach the children on how to manage finances? And you get a cut on that. And if your actual coursework becomes a 1 million hit download on TinyTap, you not only get rewarded, but you might be sort of reached out by the traditional big shop to launch products. And you own the IP of that character. So there's so many new opportunities. And we know kids love animated characters to learn sort of skill sets, right? So we think that this is going to be really, really exciting for the future.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
So this is it, right? So I mean, Cool Cats is such a approachable brand in terms of the designs. And I actually think that with the IP rights there, the sky's the limit.
If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below whether you have any questions on your mind you would like to have answered in the upcoming interviews.